Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Winnie Aulia. My student number 06011-281-823-073. Today, I want to present a material, and the topic is wait. Memory and information processes. How does the human mind work? The human mind works by forming mental representation and applying cognitive processes to them. In learning, the learner takes incoming information received through the eyes or ears and applies a series of cognitive processes to the incoming information, resulting in the construction of a series of mental representation. For example, as you read the words in this paragraph, you form a series of mental representation by applying appropriate cognitive processes, such as mentally selecting important ideas, mentally organizing them into coherent cognitive structure, and mentally relating them with prior knowledge. So, from topic, there is uh, two historical overview. During the first half of 20th century, two competing views of learning is come, which are the associationist view and the Gestalt view. According to the associationist view, the content of cognition consists of nodes and association between them, uh, and the process. Sorry. And the process of cognition consists of the strengthening and weakening of association. The second one is Gestalt view. According to Gestalt view, the content of cognition consists of coherent structure, and the process of cognition consists of building them. Then, two views of information processing theory. The first one is classical view. The classical view is based on a human-machine metaphor in which the human mind is like a computer, and knowledge is represented as data that can be processed by a computer, and cognition is represented as a program that specifies how data are processed. And second, constructivist view. The constructivist view is based on the knowledge construction metaphor, in which the human mind is a sort of construction zone in which learners actively create their own knowledge based on integrating what is presented and what they are already know. Major contribution of information processing theory. There are three of the major. The first one is cognitive processes, or cognitive task analysis. Uh, Cognitive processes is technique for describing the cognitive processes that a person must carry out to accomplish a cognitive task. There are 5 steps. The first one encoding, second is inferring, third mapping, then applying, and the last is responding. Second, mental representation, or types of knowledge. There are 4 types of knowledge. The first one is factual knowledge, consists of facts that very simple, a simple description of an object or element. Second one, Conceptual knowledge. It involves relation among elements within a coherent structure that enables them to function together. Third, procedural knowledge. Procedural knowledge involves a procedure, method, or algorithm that is a step-by-step specification of how to do something. Fourth, metacognitive knowledge. It involves strategies for how to coordinate one's cognitive processing. Third, cognitive system, architecture of the cognitive system. There is a figure 3.1. It is information about information processing model. This figure presents a model of the human information processing system. Consists of 3 memory stores, 5 basic cognitive processes, and 2 channels of knowledge representation. The 3 memory stores are sensory memory, where sensory input is stored briefly in its original form. Working memory, where a limited number of elements of the presented material are stored when the when the presented material are stored and manipulated within one's conscious awareness, and long-term memory, where large amounts of knowledge are stored for long periods of time. Then, the 5 cognitive processes presented in figure 3.1 are selecting images, selecting words, organizing images, organizing words, and integrating. Then the 2 channels are the auditory verbal, which is in the top row of figure 3.1, in which material enters the cognitive system through the ears and eventually is represented in verbal code, and the visual pictorial model, in which material enters the cognitive system through the eyes and eventually is represented in pictorial code. Then the other cognitive system is 3 assumptions underlying the model. Based on the figure that I showed before, the information from the figure is based on 3 assumptions, and this is the assumption. The first one is the dual channel assumption, then the limited capacity assumption, and the active learning assumption. Dual channel assumption is that human possesses separate information processing channels for visual pictorial material and auditory verbal material. Limited capacity assumption constrain on the amount of material that can be processed at one time in working memory. Then, the active learning assumption is that meaningful learning occurs when learners engage in appropriate cognitive processing during learning. After that, information processing and instruction. The first one, information processing in reading a passage. There is 4 steps in processing reading a passage. The first one is selecting. Selecting involves paying attention to the most relevant portion of the passage. This involves being able to tell what is important and what is not important. Then organizing. Organizing involves taking the relevant pieces of information and mentally connecting them into a coherent structure. Third, Integrating. Integrating involves connecting the incoming knowledge with existing knowledge from one's long-term memory. Fourth, monitoring. Monitoring involves metacognitive processes of judging whether the newly constructed knowledge makes sense. Second, information processing in writing an essay. Uh, there is three. There are three steps. The first one is planning. Planning involves mentally creating ideas for the essay, developing an outline structure for the essay, and considering how best to communicate with the intended audience. Second, translating. Translating involves actually putting words on paper, such as through writing, typing, or dictating. Third is reviewing. It involves detecting and correcting errors in what has been written. The third, information processing, is in solving a mathematics problem. There are four steps. First one is translating. Translating involves building a mental representation for each sentence in the problem. Second, integrating. Integrating involves building a mental representation of the entire situation that is presented in the problem. Third is planning. Planning involves creating a strategy for solving the problem, such as breaking a problem into parts. And then the last, executing. Executing involves carrying out a plan, resulting in the production of an answer. Okay, that's all the material from me. Is there any question? Okay, guys, you can turn on your mic.
Winnie, I want to ask you.
Okay.
Okay.
Fanny?
Fanny, ya?
Yeah, Fanny first.
In constructivist view, learners create their own knowledge with integrating what is presented and what they are already know. Can you give me example about this, Winnie?
Okay, Fanny. Thank you for your question. I will give you an example. For example, when you read a material about constructivist view, you may mentally select relevant ideas such as the classical view of information and processing and the constructivist view of knowledge and construction. Then you may organize them into a metric with classical and constructivist as rows and nature of information and nature of processing as columns. After that, you may integrate this material with your previous knowledge about this topic. And then the another example that is related with us as a student, for or for us as a teacher in the future, when teacher presented something in the classroom, we can say like presented a folk story for student. So from the presented folk story, students will assimilate story elements to their existing knowledge and their schemas about this folk story. After that, they will mentally reorganize the story that they think it is in a way that makes sense to them. Okay, Fanny, did I answer your question?
Yes, Winnie, thank you.
Okay, next question, please.
Winnie, I want to ask you,
Okay, Nadia.
can you give me an example about when cognitive process involved in writing an essay for learner? Thank you.
Okay, Nadia. Thank you for your question. I will give you an example about when cognitive processes involved in writing. Uh, like what I have presented before, there is 3 steps of writing an essay. The first one is planning. For example, in planning, the learner may remember specific events from his or her summer vacation. Uh, then may decide to present them in chronological order under the topic or theme too much of a good thing, and then may decide that the best way to communicate is through humor. Then the second step is translating. A learner may sit at a word processor and then begin to type the script or the text, something like that. Then third one is the last, reviewing. In this step, learners detecting and correcting the errors from the text that he or she has been typed before. Then they may read over a sentence and decide it needs to be made more specific or not, something like that. Okay, Nadia, did I answer your question?
Yes, I did, Winnie. Thank you.
Okay.
Winnie,
Next
I want
question.
to ask you, Winnie.
Okay.
Yeah, so what do you think that information processing view has important implications for education?
Okay. Thank you for your question, Nur Habibah. Yes. The information processing view has important implication for education. For example, like implication for how to improve instruction in matter uh, subject matter areas such as reading, writing, and mathematics. Uh, Information processing also can make educational practice can be improved when it is informed by an understanding of how the human mind works, and theories of how the human mind works can be improved when they are informed by studies involving on how students perform on authentic academic tasks. Did I answer your question, Habibah?
Yes, Winnie, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for your attention and your question. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.